Warning. Critique Revolve contains adult language and discussions. If you're easily offended, do not continue to listen.
All right, boys and girls, cats and kittens, it's another episode of Critique Revolve here on Rain Man Productions. What?
Digital.
There we go.
Good
There's
word.
a word that I was missing.
Right.
This is like what we talked about right before the show, my word vomit, and how I never really know what I'm going to say. And it turns out that lots of energy drinks don't really do much for me except for make me talk really fast and forget words a lot. Fuck.
I would think that's negative.
Is that a negative?
I would say so.
Is it a negative? I mean, really?
At this point?
Yeah, probably. Anyway, so Thomas and I went and saw a movie for you guys.
Yes, we did.
And it's always nice to have Thomas back with me. I always feel more comfortable when we're sitting here. For those of you that listen to the Rain Man show, you know that Thomas won the contest
Yes, I did.
to accompany me to a movie.
Yes, but
'Cause
which movie?
That's what the contest was about, was whether or not you got to accompany me.
Right. It wasn't about the movie that I wanted to see at all.
Nothing about
it was
the movie.
only spending time with you.
Of course, because I have to rub my hairy arms on you.
Ew.
Well, that's what Mike says. I don't know. Mike's homophobic, right? We do all the inside jokes in the first 5 seconds of the show.
Yeah.
It's going to be great. So we went and saw the Avengers 2,
The big summer blockbuster.
Age of Ultron. I'll finish the title, I swear to God.
No, that's in between the title.
The big summer blockbuster.
Yeah. It's everywhere.
In a world dominated by mutants. Oh, wait, you can't say mutants. Fox owns mutants.
Okay, whatever.
Yeah, I forgot.
Superhumans, whatever.
Anyway, so the Marvel Universe is intense. I think that's the right word for it. It's all-encompassing. It's got so many different facets to it. You've got the TV shows that all tie in, unlike DC, to their movies, which is awesome. It's fantastic. It does kind of suck a little bit when you're watching the TV show and it's essentially just a trailer or foreshadowing for a movie, but
it's got its ups and downs. It's cool because it feels like everything you're watching matters. It's this one big epic.
Right.
The downside is obviously you have to watch a lot more stuff in order to get full, value out of what the entertainment is.
Well, you do, but you don't. It's almost like the comic book world. Like Marvel's actually
True.
Their movie world, like the comic book world, where you have these little offshoot comics that will have story elements that aren't necessarily pertinent to the story, but kind of help with the understanding and the transition.
True, but
so I think I actually really enjoy what Marvel's doing here, in that if you don't want to invest, essentially a lifetime worth of viewing in the period of 3 weeks, you can just kind of sit back and watch the movies. And even if you miss a movie, you're not going to be completely lost in going into any of their movies so far. Marvel has done a fantastic job with making each one of these movies, while all interconnected, still really good standalone viewings.
I would say except for the obvious ones like Iron Man 2 to 1, Thor 2 to Thor 1. I mean, that you should see the first one.
You should, but you don't have to, is what I'm saying.
You don't have to.
You can still enjoy the movie.
But if you're that asshole,
hey, there's assholes of all types. You have to just kind of go with that, TC. It is what it is. But anyway, so Avengers Age of Ultron, it actually comes out May 1st. Of course, they're doing the screenings on Thursday, the day before, and they're doing lots of, watch Avengers 1 and then watch
binge watching
Ultron.
The whole collection.
What was it? There was the one, there's some place that was doing, there was a couple different places that were doing watch all the Marvel movies.
Yeah.
And then watch Age of Ultron. That's what, 19 hours?
A solid straight day.
Fuck, dude, that's brutal.
That would be cool.
Well, it would be.
But you would get burned out, I think.
They did it with Lord of the Rings, and I think they did it at a couple places with Batman. But that's 3 movies. That's 6 hours. Yeah. Well, Lord of the Rings, if you're watching the extended cut,
12.
It's a lifetime.
Harry Potter did it too, but even then, that was only 7. I think Marvel's the only one that's breached double digits now.
Are they at double digits? I don't know.
We can go through and count.
Let's count. Okay, so you got
3 Iron Men.
1, 2, and 3.
Okay.
You got Cap'n and Cap'n 2.
Right. Thor and Thor 2.
Thor and Thor.
Guardians.
Avengers 1. And
Incredible Hulk and Avengers 2.
I know you count Incredible Hulk. I know it counts.
Does count.
I know it counts because Tony Stark makes the appearance at the end.
Exactly.
I understand that. I get it. I still don't count it. And so Avengers 2 makes 11.
Yeah.
11 Marvel movies since, 2007?
2008. Or it was with Iron Man was the first that kicked
Iron
it
Man
off.
Was that 08? It was 08, yeah.
And
Iron
Hulk
Man
was that
08.
year too, 08.
Okay, so since 2008, 7 years, 11 movies. I have to say thank you, Marvel, honestly, because DC dropped the ball so horribly.
It tunneled through the earth, and someone in China was like, what the hell is this?
If China was at the other end of the earth.
It is wherever I dropped it in this analogy.
Yeah, okay.
Brian, shut the hell up.
Yeah, know your geography, man. Anyway, so Avengers Age of Ultron, 141 minutes. So it clocks in at about 2 hours and 20 minutes, which is pretty par for the course for a Marvel big budget. Guardians first Avengers was, I think, around the same amount of time.
Yeah.
This one's PG-13, just like all of the Marvel movies have been up to this point. I think there wasn't one PG.
Possibly.
I don't know. It doesn't matter. Anyway, so the synopsis for this Joss Whedon directed movie is: when Tony Stark tries to jumpstart a dormant peacekeeping program, things go awry, and Earth's mightiest heroes, including Iron Man, Captain America, Thor, the Incredible Hulk, Black Widow, and Hawkeye, are put to the ultimate test as the fate of the planet hangs in the balance. As the villainous Ultron emerges, it is up to the Avengers to stop him from enacting his terrible plans. And soon, uneasy alliances and unexpected action pave the way for a global adventure.
I like how it's like the Earth's mightiest heroes in a universe in which those are the Earth's only heroes.
Well,
it's not like there was somebody who was left out of that roster at that time.
No, there was.
Who?
Falcon.
He's not one of the mightiest.
War Machine.
He's not a hero. They're soldiers, honestly.
Well, I guess that is true, and you're right, because they have completely cut out all of the X-Men and Spider-Man.
The X-Men, and they don't live in that universe. Daredevil is not, I don't know timeline-wise where Daredevil and Avengers 2 hits exactly.
Well, it's got to be around the same time, right?
Right. I would. We know.
Look at just like the cars and the clothing.
We know it's post Avengers 1,
right? Because
the Daredevil series, yeah. But we don't exactly know. But if you went solely based off the movies, it's not like anybody was left out.
I guess that's fair.
Yeah,
that's fair, because you're right. You do have the big four and then the humans.
Right.
I know Tony Stark is a human, but he's not, because it's Iron Man.
It's cheating.
It's the suit.
Right.
Like, he's Batman. It's the suit.
Yeah.
Only Batman actually has discipline
and skills.
Tony Stark likes to drink, and
Yeah. Oh, a lot of people do.
Yeah, that's true.
Batman probably would like to more often.
I'm sure Batman would love to drink
slept.
more often if he ever slept. Exactly. So anyway, of course, that's the synopsis given to us by Marvel Studios, and it doesn't give us a whole lot really to work with here, but it's exactly what you expect. They're going to have to get together. Oh, there's going to be an uneasy alliance. Oh, there's going to be a bad guy. And now with the first Avengers movie, the bad guy that you had was more than just Loki.
Villain.
It was Loki, who is a recurring villain, but then you also had was it the Scree?
Chitauri.
Chitauri. It was the Chitauri. The Scree was what everybody said they were going to be, and then it turned out.
Right.
Sorry. But you had the Chitauri, which made it seem just huge. Like, this villain was so big.
I disagree.
I don't.
A little bit.
You're wrong.
Well, let's debate.
Okay.
I feel like the villain.
You're wrong. No,
okay. Yeah. The villain was Loki. He was the primary villain. Thanos obviously is the villain in the background.
Well, he's been the villain in the background for all of these movies.
Right. And
any movie that has an Infinity Stone, it's Thanos.
Right. We know that. But this this is where we see he has resources.
Right. The first time. Because then, of course, with Guardians, it gets even bigger.
Right. And then Loki's the main bad guy. The Chitauri just felt like an antagonistic force. It wasn't really like they were villains that were plotting something. It was just, this is the army that was sold to Loki to do what Thanos wanted.
But what I'm saying is that that army was badass as fuck, and
they were
huge.
Cool. The Leviathan ship creatures.
Dude. They were a terrifying villain. Then in this one we get a robot.
But he's a kick-ass robot.
He is a kick-ass robot. But he's not an army of aliens.
He's an army of robots.
He did become an army of robots.
Yeah.
And I don't want to spoil anything. We'll actually revisit this here at the end of the show once we go into spoiler territory, because, like always, we will have some spoilers on the show. Sorry,
Which
guys.
is different for us, because this was the first time that we both had not seen the trailer. You normally watch trailers.
I do normally. I've actually stopped watching trailers fairly recently. It's within the last 6 months or so that I stopped looking up trailers. And part of that had to do with, I don't remember what movie it was that I saw where the trailer looked kick-ass.
It let you down, didn't it?
And then the movie was awful. Unlike Unfriended, where the trailer looked like shit and then the movie was fantastic. And for those of you that haven't seen Unfriended yet, what the fuck is wrong with you? That movie is fantastic. Fuck whatever you're reading in the reviews. Those people all suck. They're not horror fans. They should go fucking die. Anyone who reviewed that movie based solely on it's not a cinematic masterpiece, shut up. It's a fucking horror movie. Like, it's not going to be great.
None of them are cinematic. Hitchcock, I'd say, was the only one.
Hitchcock is suspense. It's not horror. There's no gore.
Psycho
There was a little bit of gore.
for the 60s?
For the 60s, it was
Absolutely.
fantastic.
Yeah.
You know, Jamie Lee Curtis, the hermaphrodite's mom, like, that was fantastic. Like,
Oh my god.
what?
No, anyway. So this is the first one
so-
we hadn't seen the trailers for.
Yeah, this was the first one that we hadn't seen the trailers for. Like, I had seen some set pics.
Yeah.
I had seen images of Vision. I had seen images of Ultron, of course, because they were everywhere. Like, you couldn't avoid the image of Ultron if you went to a movie theater in the last year.
Right.
Like, you're gonna see Ultron. You're gonna see a stand-up. You're gonna see, and honestly, dude, I almost kind of hate that.
Yeah, it takes away from the reveal.
Like, well,
I feel.
and when they revealed Ultron the first time, I thought it was awesome because he was like
Yeah.
in process,
Right.
which was great. And then you finally get to like that final, what he looks like at the end, which is what every image showed you.
Right.
So there really
you only
wasn't-
saw the end. You didn't see the middle.
Right. And it's like, well, I know where he's going, so I know that he doesn't die in this scene. Shit.
Exactly.
And so it was kind of,
And that's what takes away from trailers and all that imagery.
Absolutely. And so it was kind of refreshing for me to have not seen the trailer for the first time in forever when it comes to a big movie. I mean, of course, I watched the Batman Superman teaser trailer because, you know, do you bleed?
Because you're a Superman fanboy.
You will. Oh, I am. I'm a huge Superman fanboy. Like, I can't deny that. I have an 18-inch Superman doll, the Superman stand-up, the
Right.
RFX one, which is fantastic. $20. What?
You make good life choices.
I do make good life choices, Thomas. I do, and my foot's not broken anymore. But from what I understand, Mike's destroying the studio as we speak.
We got construction going on in the background,
yeah,
apparently.
don't worry about that. That's just the Mexican doing the construction. So. Anyway,
That's terrible.
Well, no, from what I understand, this movie was so awesome you threw out your back.
I did.
You're dying.
I'm dying. So that's pretty much all there is to it.
Right? No, it's okay because I brought you drugs.
Right. Yeah.
And they're actually like legal. So there's that.
Yeah.
That's the first
It
one.
was so exciting. When I stood straight up out of the chair, I just snapped my back in half. So
You were so excited to go
Right.
give them our 1 minute
Right.
quip that
yes. Someone must know about this. Jesus Christ, what I do.
But anyway, so budget on this one was $250 million.
Sounds about right. At
Well,
this point.
considering the first movie made $623 million domestic and a fuckload more overseas, that, you know, spending $250 million and
Seemed like a safe bet.
and I think that the old adage that you spend double based on advertising can kind of go out the window with these huge movies like this, because I highly doubt they spent $250 million on advertising. Like, that would be almost impossible to do. You know what I mean?
Yeah.
Because you know that's the old rule of thumb, is that if they spent $50 million on the movie, they spent $50 million on advertising. There has to be some kind of point where you just don't go over that for advertising. Like, how
Right.
much more advertising can you do? And especially with the Marvel movies, they do so much word of mouth advertising through the geek blogs,
The
through
fact
the websites and everything else.
the content of what they are
Right.
does enough advertising for them based on every movie, nerd, video game, like anything in that pop culture
Right.
is going to do all the advertising you need. It's going
true.
to tell people what they need to watch beforehand. It's going to tell people what they need to read from comic books, what they should buy,
Right.
you know, stories. It's going to do everything for you.
Well, I mean, flat out calling this Age of Ultron, there was a line of comics called Age of Ultron. Like, if you wanted to see an approximation of what this was going to look like, well, just
Right.
read the comic, you'll be fine. Which I did not do, even though I was working at a comic book store at the time. I did not read the Ultron series,
Right.
because I knew the movie was coming. And so I was like, I'll just wait for it in movie form, which you can do with comic books. I would not suggest doing that with books. Real books, you kind of need to read the book.
Right.
But anyway, so this one was distributed by Buena Vista, just like the last one, which is who's been doing most of the Marvel stuff. Let's see, what else do we got on here, dude? Okay. Soundtrack for this movie.
Yeah.
The soundtrack for Guardians of the Galaxy is probably one of the best soundtracks to come out
Easily.
in the last 10 years.
I'd go farther than that even.
Maybe.
But yeah.
I'm playing it safe.
Yeah,
saying,
yeah, yeah.
saying about 10 years, and it's by far the best soundtrack to come out of any superhero movie, period.
Yes.
Ever. even Catwoman. But so I think, honestly, I was expecting out of this movie, there were very few things that I didn't like.
Okay.
I think one of the things that I wanted was more of that musical kind of thing that you got from Guardians.
It doesn't really fit, though.
But I understand that it doesn't fit because they had that recurring thing with Star-Lord, that it fit because of the music and because of the character that he is and where he's from. And so it fit. And so in this one, it would have been a lot harder to do.
It wouldn't make as much sense storyline-wise. The characters aren't really the kind to...
They're not jokey.
Although the one I will say was Tony Stark's always had the AC/DC kind of theme song to him, which we saw in the movies, his own trilogy, and then we saw that in Avengers when he first shows up. And I was really surprised. And I might be wrong, but I do not remember hearing anything like that.
I'm going to be honest with you, I don't remember a single song that was in this movie.
Yeah.
We watched it less than 24 hours ago, and I don't remember a single song.
Right.
I still have the Guardian soundtrack playing in my head.
It hasn't stopped in a year?
In a year. I've had the Guardian soundtrack running through my head. It's because of Dancing Groot. Like... That right there, dude, made that whole movie. Like the rest of the movie could have been shit. Dancing Groot was fantastic. Now with this one, you get Ultron, and Ultron's a little bit different in this if you've read the comics.
And that was I would say, like, that was my biggest difference. I never watched any of the trailers. I didn't even look at a lot of the still images, as easy as it was to see them, you know. But I went into this thinking of Ultron. And I guess we're going to get a little bit into spoiler territory here. Just
we are
a heads
a little
up.
bit. This is more of a personality spoiler.
Personality spoiler.
A plot spoiler.
I imagined Ultron much more of a menacing, truly evil, frankly robotic. This is the reason. This is the best solution. I will do it regardless of morality.
Well, real quick. In that regard, what you're thinking of is more like the AI in iRobot.
Kinda.
No, dude, that was her thing.
Yeah, but that's usually the MO for the AI takes over. Look at Terminator; it's the same
any
thing.
of that is that the best way to protect them is to destroy them.
Well, they're the root cause of
everything,
all their own problems.
Right, exactly.
So how do we fix this?
Exactly, get rid of them.
So I expected much more of a darker, menacing villain,
right?
And we get more of a misunderstood, misguided villain,
right?
Some of his lines, while they are fun and James Spader sells all of it, it wasn't the tone I was going for or imagined I would get. I was thinking more along the comic book line, or even a Doctor Doom kind of, I'm just so much better than you, you're, ants beneath my mighty boot.
Right.
Rather than dealing with some of their, having insecurities of his own, I would say.
Right. He had fear.
We learn about him, and that might be the entire goal of the story of this one.
Well, I mean, it's one of those things where we have talked about this repeatedly. When you start to sympathize with what is supposed to be inherently bad or evil, it loses some of that luster.
Loki worked with the sympathy factor because the brother's storyline, because of how he got the way he was, the fact that Thanos was pulling the strings in the first movie, despite he didn't have a choice in invading Earth.
Right.
I wanted much more of this dude's just straight up evil look from Ultron, and you don't really get that. So if you're going in with those expectations, adjust them now.
Right. No, exactly. And it's actually funny, like, speaking of Ultron and the whole thing, there's some trivia that was put out there. James Spader, of course, voices Ultron and did all of the motion capture,
except for the flying parts,
right? And so he was on set for all of Ultron to play that character, so that you'd get the real reactions out of the actors and actresses. And now, from what I understand, Spader's performance was utterly fantastic on set. Now, Aaron Taylor Johnson is playing Quicksilver in this one, and Elizabeth Olsen is playing Scarlet Witch, his sister.
Right.
I guess what they did for Spader on set was they actually put like this antenna thing with a thick piece of wire and like these two red balls attached at the top. Because Ultron's supposed to be like 9 feet tall.
Right, to where people should reference to look.
Right, so they wanted them to reference up. But because Spader's performance was so engrossing, Elizabeth Olsen kept looking him in the eyes. So she's like looking at Ultron's chest the entire time. And whenever this would happen on set, Aaron Taylor Johnson would scream at her, "Red balls! Look at his balls, Lizzie!" which I just find absolutely fantastic.
Oh, that's great.
That is great. And that's one of the other things I want to talk about in this movie was performance-wise. These guys, a lot of these guys have been playing these characters, Iron Man for
Robert Downey
years,
Jr.,
or 9,
Chris
10 years
Hemsworth.
if you go back to when they started filming.
Right.
Chris Evans has been playing Captain America for 5 years or whatever.
Downey Jr.'s on a decade almost.
Well, that's what I'm saying, Iron Man.
Right.
Downey Jr.'s there. Paul Bettany playing Jarvis for that amount of time.
Same amount of time.
And of course, in this one, we actually get to see Paul Bettany's face. And God, I love him so much.
I think people can pretty much know what's going to happen with that, but let's stay away from that.
No, that's
it
fine.
is such a great
It
scene.
It is such a fantastic scene. But
Yeah.
you get to see Paul Bettany's face, which made me extremely
amazing
happy.
actor in
And
his
not only
own
that,
right.
but the costuming in this movie, the new costumes, were so good.
Yeah.
So Scarlet Witch, Quicksilver. Like, don't get me, I don't want to take anything away from the Quicksilver that was in the Fox universe.
Right.
Because there was, you and I talked about this, that the Quicksilver in the Fox universe has the best scene.
Absolutely.
But the better portrayal of the character was done in the Marvel universe.
Correct.
Granted, he had much more screen time in the Marvel universe.
Yeah.
Than he did. But they have completely different origin stories. Like, they're not even the same character,
No,
honestly. They
they're
have
not.
the same power, the speed.
Right.
But completely different characters with just the same name and the same power. The Scarlet Witch was fantastic. Elizabeth Olsen, holy shit. Like, I was super impressed with her in this movie.
I was too.
And now Aaron Taylor Johnson, I actually fucking hate him as an actor. and the reason being is I hate the character of Kick-Ass.
Okay.
I hate it. And that's the thing I remember him as.
And you can't get over that
And
just
I
yet.
just can't. It's been 4 or 5 years since Kick-Ass came out.
Right.
And I still can't get over the fact that I fucking hate him. And so every time I see him in a movie, I cringe because I want to poke his eyeballs out. And in watching this movie, he actually made me forget that.
That's good.
So kudos on the writing for creating a character that made me forget about the shit that was Kick-Ass, even though I know it got good reviews. And I liked the movie Kick-Ass.
You just didn't like the character.
I hated the characterization.
It shows his ability as an actor, though, since you still see him as that.
Well, yeah,
how
exactly.
good of a performance he did. But
Exactly.
I think it kind of goes without saying with this cast, performances were amazing and across the board.
Oh, absolutely.
Everyone brought their A game. There was nobody dragging it down in any way. I mean, Marvel's been amazing with their casting decisions. I don't really know, or at least at the moment, can't pin any actor who in that scene they were bad for one of Marvel's movies. Since they did the continued universe, I
Right.
would
So
say.
I'll agree with you there. Even with
Prior to that, early 2000s, people were drinking a lot.
well, I mean, aside from Ed Norton as Bruce Banner, which I did not find that convincing, he was not bad.
It wasn't bad though.
He was
I
not
still
bad.
I believed in the idea enough, but Mark Ruffalo is a much better Banner.
Right.
The dorky scientist aspect.
Right. I think Ruffalo, you just believe more.
You do.
As Banner, you do. And so it works for him really well. Downey, like, the thing is like with this movie, you pretty much go into it knowing what you're going to get. Like, you're going to get a big blockbuster. You're going to get awesome effects.
Right.
The practical effects they do are still fantastic. Joss Whedon knows what he's doing when it comes to effects, and the CGI in this. And I know that that's one of the things that in going over some of the other reviews that came out last week and earlier this week, some of the other reviews have talked about the use of CGI in this movie, and it's one of those things where that's a hot button topic right now. Like, which bandwagon do you want to jump on if you're going to bash a movie? You look at Pacific Rim, people talked about the CGI in that. It's like, well, what the fuck do you want them to do? It's robots versus monsters. Like,
See, I thought the CGI in that looked amazing.
so did I.
I'll give the story some well-desered flack.
Well,
but
that's fair.
I wasn't there for that either.
Well, and then with the Avengers movies and with Guardians of the Galaxy and all of that, like, you're going to get a ton of CGI. There's no question there. Like, that's
You
just,
have to. You have Hulk as a character. Like, let's get real.
Yeah, exactly. Like, you're gonna have CGI, and I will say this: the CGI in this movie is seamless. It's really, really well done. I don't think there was any bit of CGI in this that I was like, meh.
There's no point in which you're like, that is a sticker of a person on a CGI background, The Hobbit.
Right. Or that is not a real car flying through the air, furious.
Right.
This movie, even though it's robots, it's people flying, it's lasers being shot.
It all looks very good.
It all looks very, like I said, it looks seamless. It looks real.
I will say, though, if you guys are going to see this, don't view it in 3D.
No, the 3D, honestly, it wasn't shot in 3D. It wasn't shot on IMAX cameras. It's a conversion. And
never looks the same anyway.
My issue with this movie for 3D is that the first 20 minutes of it will give you a headache and make you want to vomit. It's not that bad, honestly.
It's not that bad, but the thing is, it's not planned for 3D, no. I would say.
It's not like when you went to Spy Kids 3D and like it was very obvious.
Guardians, like Guardians is a better example. You know, it works with the depth of space.
Right.
Some of the shots are planned out. It looks much better. I'm not 100% certain if that one was shot in 3D or not.
I didn't.
But the conversion looks better, and the brighter color palette allows everything to pop more. Surprisingly, this one's a little darker. You know, there's a lot of grayish scenes and a lot of, you know, it's kind of got a gunmetal gray, dirt brown vibe to some of the scenes, but that's due to locations.
Right, because I mean, you have to remember they went to like some third world country
in Eastern Europe or something.
In the Eastern Bloc.
Yeah.
And that's where a lot of especially the fight scenes take place there. You know, and they do show some of the new Avengers stuff.
Right.
You know, post Avengers 1, which was awesome. Like what they did with some of that stuff was so cool. You know, and like I was saying, like, you know what you're going to get with this because you know the actors, like the main actors, you know what you're going to get out of Downey Jr., you know what you're going to get out of Hemsworth, you know what you're going to get out of Evans. ScarJo, I think actually she brought more to the table this time than we'd seen before.
I would say the ones who brought more that I was more surprised by the storyline amount they got
was ScarJo and Scarlett Rainier.
And even Mark Ruffalo, more as Banner.
You're right.
The three of them had a lot more interaction, were a lot more human, rather than just little people dealing with, you know, I mean, Banner's essentially just a dude, Hulk is someone else.
Right.
Dealing with these gods and superheroes.
They even personalized the Hulk in this one, though.
Yeah, they do.
Like, they gave him much more sentience.
Which we haven't really seen since Ang Lee's, I'd say.
Ang Lee's had it at the very end with Jennifer
At the end, yeah.
Yeah, and I mean, that's always kind of been how the Hulk works, is that there's that girl. It's the sex drive that calms the beast, and
because that's how it normally works, right?
Well, I mean, you know, you can tame a mountain lion with a piece of vagina. I guess I don't know how that works.
What does it say about people?
Well, we're all animalistic. We either want to. It's either fuck or kill, right? Like those are the two options.
Those are your choices.
But no, like I think that what they did with the storyline on this movie was perfect. The pacing of this film, which, you know, this is something I harp on. The pacing of this film, I was never bored. I think I sighed once, and that was because I legitimately just needed to breathe. Like, you know, the sigh meter for every movie, it's there, you know.
Yeah.
And this one, it wasn't that. I mean, what was it, dude? 10 minutes into the movie, I was like, I have to pee.
Yeah.
And then I didn't move.
Yeah.
I sat there, and I held it because I was like, I'm going to miss something if I go. And I'm only 10 minutes into the movie. Like, that's normally like the perfect time to go to the bathroom. But I didn't want to miss any of... There was so much character development, which is surprising considering it's the 11th Marvel movie.
Right.
And you still had a ton of character development, which I thought was perfect.
And I would say this movie advanced the whole Marvel plot of the entire continued universe far more than many of the other movies had.
I think Avengers did a good job advancing it.
Avengers absolutely did.
Iron Man 3 did a good job of advancing.
See, I disagree.
Well, no, I say this because you get all of the suits in that.
You get some of the setup.
That's the exit of Tony Stark from the suits.
Right.
Like, that's him creating this autonomous army.
Which kind of leads to the events in this one.
That's what I mean when I say that it continues things.
Well, I'm saying, like, in this one, from beginning to end, so many different little details were introduced.
Right.
Major plot developments were advanced.
Yes.
You know, certain things were confirmed and set up for other movies that are coming down the pipeline if you've looked at the calendar.
Right.
But none of it, I would say one aspect feels a little forced into it, and that would be with Thor. Spoiler alert.
A little, yeah.
It makes sense after the reveal of what that is.
Yes.
And I'm going to not go into details on this. Right. But when it first happens, you're like, why are we doing this?
And then you know.
And they're like, oh, okay. Yeah. But the fact that you have that question.
You also have to know what's coming next for Thor.
If you don't know that.
And if you don't know what that is.
You're a little thrown by that.
Now, and of course, I'm just going to say what's next for Thor because that's general knowledge.
I would say it's general knowledge at this point.
It's Thor Ragnarok is what it's called. That's the title so far for the movie. And if you don't know what Ragnarok is, don't look it up. It doesn't matter.
You'll find out.
You'll find out. Just you know. Be cool, man. Be cool. But no, like, and I think with talking about Joss Whedon here for a minute, Whedon knows what the fuck he's doing. Like,
right.
He has proven it time and time again. I found it interesting that his remarks about the next Marvel movie, Ant-Man, where he said that Edgar Wright's script was the best script Marvel has had ever. And yet that's not what we're going to see.
I know.
Is kind of telling a little bit with his relationship to Marvel right now.
And the fact that he's not going to be involved on the third installment of the Avengers.
Right. Like there's some stuff going on behind the scenes, very obviously, because, 3 years ago he wouldn't have gone against the grain for Marvel.
No, there's no need to.
He was going, just with the company line,
Yep.
And when you looked at Thor 2, when they dropped that director off of it, Whedon stayed quiet.
Mm-hmm.
And that would have been something that Whedon probably would have spoken up about, because he's very outspoken. He's an outspoken guy, and people listen to his opinion.
Yeah,
and he's earned that right.
Absolutely,
he has absolutely earned that right. It's kind of like Downey Jr. at this point has earned the right to say when he's done with Iron Man, and now he is signed on for Captain America: Civil War.
Right,
but that is the last movie he signed on for.
Right,
and that's 2016, the new Captain America movie. So in watching this movie, you'll get some clues as to what's going on. Not a lot, and it's very small, so pay attention. But they are.
But it's also very telling.
It is,
and I will say a little bit of a spoiler, because we're getting to the end. I'd say the last segment here.
We got about another 15 minutes.
Yeah, well, I mean, if you're listening at this point,
Yeah, that's true. If you're listening at this point, wow,
you've either seen it or
good job.
Yeah, thank you.
Thanks for listening. We appreciate you.
I will say it's a bit telling of where things could go. And it's a little unnerving as a fan.
It is, a little bit. It is.
And not for the right reasons.
I guess in a way, yes, and I understand what you're saying, because I know we talked about it
right.
in the movie, because we did that thing where we stand in a parking lot for an hour and have a pre-show.
Yeah.
Before this show, where we talk for another 45 minutes to an hour. But one of the things that we talked about after the movie was the absence of certain characters from the Avengers.
Right.
Pepper Potts being the most glaring for me.
Mm-hmm.
She's referenced numerous times in this movie. Like, numerous times they reference Pepper, and they also reference
Jane.
And of course, Stellan Skarsgård does show up in this movie, which is great because I love his character. I do. And I love watching the progression of his character.
Yeah.
Where he's like normal, crazy as shit. Not crazy because he was right.
Right.
And now teaching again. Like, I find that absolutely fantastic, that because that's essentially what would happen to that guy.
Yeah.
That poor fucker. Like, seriously. like he's literally like the Job of the Marvel universe. It's like, how much shit can we throw at this guy? And let's see if he can keep his fucking wits, But you don't have Jane, you don't have Pepper, and it's one of those things that actually is kind of missing from the Marvel movies, is that female, aside from Black Widow, who is over-sexualized.
Right.
It is kind of missing from...
And Maria Hill, and she's not in it very much.
Well, and it's one of those things with Maria Hill is a dude. She's a soldier. That's all she is. You don't really see her feminine side come out at all. She is a soldier, and that is always masculine. I don't care. I know that's super sexist, but that is what it is.
Traditionally, that is what it is.
It is.
Still
it's a traditional
ingrained in our society.
Role, and it's one of those things where she acts very soldiery, which if you say that to anybody, they're going to go, oh, like a dude, And she's not. She's still a woman, but blah, blah, blah. I'm trying to be PC here.
But the point is, it feels very much a boys' club.
It is.
In this episode.
It is. It's very much a boys' club.
It might as well be an episode of the whole series.
Well, they do. There is something that I'm not going to spoil because it's a huge plot thing.
Right.
They do add in another female that does have actually quite a bit of screen time, and I loved it.
Yeah, it worked really well.
Loved it. Absolutely adored all of it. When you guys watch the movie, and that's a when, not an if, when you guys watch the movie, you'll know who I'm talking about because I am 110% in love with her. And if for those of you that have listened to the show, you know what I like. So she fits it. No, dude.
No, I mean, why do we have to know so much about Brian's sexual life?
Whoa, dude. I didn't. Okay, that's fair.
Yeah.
That is what it is. But looking at, and of course they added Elizabeth Olsen too, but that the feminine side of her character is severely underdeveloped.
I didn't have a problem with that, but I feel like
it's still a boys' club, is all I'm saying.
It is still a boys' club.
That's all I'm saying. Is that even with the female characters, they kind of treat them like soldiers because it's what they are.
Which I think, when we get to that point, Captain Marvel being a female lead will be a nice, refreshing
That's how
change
I
of pace. It'll be nice to see a female character who can go toe to toe with Thor and Ultron and, kick some serious ass.
Dude, what year were you born?
90?
Elizabeth Olsen is older than you.
Yeah.
I did not know
Most
that.
people are.
Well, no, I didn't realize. Dude, she's only like a year old.
Yeah.
But I didn't realize she was older than you. I thought she was younger. Sorry, not to totally derail where you were going.
No, just I think Miss Marvel being in it will be nice. To have that a character that can keep toe-to-toe with the big leagues.
Well, now, at the same time, though, I thought Guardians of the Galaxy did a fantastic job with their female characters.
Also did.
And I mean, it's one of those things where, I mean, honestly, we were talking about it last night when we were ranking the Marvel movies.
We were.
We were talking about where they rank in, like, Iron Man 1, of course, is better than Iron Man 2, which is worse than Iron Man 3. So it goes 1, 3, 2.
Right.
Right. Then we looked at Captain America, where I thought Captain America 1 was literally a trailer for the Avengers.
Pretty much was.
And so for me, Winter Soldier was better than the first one.
Right.
Which I think you'd agreed with.
I agree.
Okay. Then you had the Hulk movie, which is standalone. Talk about it, because whatever.
Because you don't like it.
Well, it's not that I don't like it. I actually really like that movie.
It just doesn't fit as well.
Well, the fact of the matter is they changed actors.
Yeah, so it doesn't fit as well.
And for me, that negates the movie itself. And I actually like the Ang Lee Hulk better, which I know is, I'm in the minority here, but I really, really, really love Jennifer Connelly. So the Ang Lee Hulk for me is just better. Then you have
You're just wrong.
Thor and Thor 2, where I thought Dark World was Dark World.
I
don't know why I have.
I don't know what you just did,
dude. I've done that before with World. I don't know why I say it so weird. I sound like fucking the guy from The Room. Like, you're tearing me apart, Lisa. Like, it's awful.
Yeah.
Like, we're all. Anyway, Thor: The Dark World, I felt was a better movie than Thor. Now, Thor, the first 30 minutes with Kenneth Branagh directing in Asgard was better than Thor 2.
Right.
But the rest of the movie suffered because of Branagh's direction, which I know is a horrible thing to say because the guy's an amazing director, but he doesn't do well with,
it
like,
wasn't
real
his
time.
Niche.
No, his niche is
if it could have stayed solely in Asgard, I think it would have been outstanding.
Right. No, and not only that, but then Thor 2 had the guy from Chuck. So
right,
because he replaced that other dude who I don't remember his name. The guy from Chuck is Zach. I
don't
Zachary
watch Chuck.
Levi.
Yeah,
Zachary Levi. Who, once again, I love him. So like Thor 2 better. And then with Guardians of the Galaxy, Avengers is a better movie than Guardians of the Galaxy, but not by much. And I lump Guardians in with Avengers because it's such an ensemble cast kind of film.
Okay.
Even though you get a ton more character development in Guardians than you do in Avengers, because we know all the characters in Avengers.
Right.
The movie wasn't.
They don't
about
need to be
character
set
development. That was just a big. Everybody's going to fight.
A big nerd off.
Well, what it was we're going to become a team.
Yeah.
That's what it was. And now with Avengers 2, they kind of go that same route where it's like there's cracks in the armor.
Yeah.
I guess is a way to the right way to put it. There's a couple links that are weaker than others when it comes to how the team relates to each other.
Well, like most, movies along the same kind of concept. The first one is them just getting over differences, coming together.
Right, like Batman
makes them a
versus
strong
Superman.
team.
Do you bleed? Yes.
Yeah. The second instance is usually them dealing with the problems that people find when you work with anybody for a long time.
Right. Like, I mean, you and I have been working together for how long?
Almost 2 years. 2 years.
Right.
Yeah.
And there are days where I literally want to kill you.
Yeah. Well, yeah.
No,
So like that.
like legit, I want to poke your eyeballs out
Oh, that's violent.
with my thumbs.
Okay. Well,
It got
please
really
don't.
awkward.
That was weird.
I wish you guys could see this right now. The look I just gave
okay.
you was fantastic. But anyway, no.
But it deals with that aspect of having to deal
It
with
does.
people for a long time. If you've had a roommate, you know how they can get on your nerves.
Yeah, we're not going to talk about roommates. I've had some really bad experiences. But no, and I think that the second movie does a really good job with kind of showcasing that aspect, but then also not overdoing it. They don't overdo the conflict within the team.
Yeah.
Because they still all have the
friends.
same, they
They're
still
still
have the
teammates.
same goal. Is really what it is. They all have the same goal, which is protecting people.
It's the start, and I think this is going to lead more into Captain America 3.
The Civil War.
Difference in ideology.
Right.
Same end goal, different
How you
thoughts of
get
how
there.
we should get there.
Right. It's the difference between like Stalin and Hitler. Same end goal.
Okay.
Difference of
Death?
opinion on how to get there. No, no. I mean, seriously though, dude. Like in the real world, they had the same end goal, which is why they worked together for a minute, and then it didn't work because they had differences of opinion on how to get there. Stalin didn't want to eradicate 1 billion Jews. Hitler, on the other hand, did. Why are you giving me the huge?
I just don't know.
Have I crossed the line?
I think you did.
Have I crossed the line?
I think so. I think we found that line.
Well, Aaron Taylor Johnson can tell us because he's part Jew. So,
oh my God.
What?
Don't give Brian energy drink.
Can we tweet that?
Do not give Brian energy drinks.
Anyway, so where was I going?
That's what I would love to know.
Balls. No, but like this movie did a good job of kind of showcasing the differences between the characters, but not overdoing it to a point where it's heavy-handed.
Right.
The way that this was written, I felt was very, very, very smart. I enjoyed that almost more than anything else, and of course, Whedon's the one that wrote it. And he's done such an amazing job between Agents of S.H.I.E.L.D., Avengers. He's done the Astonishing X-Men cartoons.
Yeah.
And
I think that's the thing. It's like it'll be such a shame to see him not be as involved as he is for this first 2/3 of the project.
Right. And that's
a big third coming up still.
That's got to be tough on him.
I
mean, God, could you imagine, like, this is your baby, and now it's like, here, you oh, shit.
And that's,
it's almost like George Lucas, only Joss Whedon can actually direct.
My concern comes from, why get rid of Edgar Wright? And
like, what happened?
And why is Joss Whedon not working on these projects anymore? Which makes me fear, is Marvel getting too cocky to the point where they're going to lose sight of their original vision and go for what they think is going to do better financially?
I don't know. I mean, Infinity War, the directors, the Russo brothers, Anthony and Joe Russo, and those guys did Winter Soldier.
Great movie.
Which was good. And they also did a bunch of episodes of Community.
I don't really watch.
But it doesn't matter because it's good. So whether you watch it or not literally does not matter.
I'm not questioning their skill, but I'm saying if you've got your A-star.
But see, here's how I look at this. Like, Joss Whedon took them up to Civil War.
Right.
Right? But the Russo brothers are the ones that are doing Captain America Winter Soldier, Captain America Civil War, and I think this next Avengers movie is going to have to tie into that hard. And so it almost makes sense to kind of give it to the new kids that have taken over.
Maybe.
I mean, not necessarily, though, because like Dune was such a mess once his kid took over. I don't know. Like, I'm trying to make excuses here.
And exactly, that's what it sounds like, excuses. So I just worry, as a fanboy, I just don't want Marvel to lose sight of the end goal. I would hate for this thing to unravel at the end.
So close.
At the end, yeah.
Well, I mean,
because legitimately we have
5 years out, like.
Kind of more closer to 4 than 5, but even then, I'd hate to see us go from 2008 to 2015, 16 even, and then by the time we hit 17 or 18, I don't care as much anymore.
10 years in, you don't care as much. Well, I don't know. You'll be 10 years older,
right?
So, I don't know. I mean, and also, did you have to look at it this way too? Like, the other writer on this, aside from the Russo guys, the screenplay is being done by Christopher Marcus, who did Captain America: The First Avenger, Pain and Gain, which is a surprisingly good movie, Thor: The Dark World, Captain America: Winter Soldier. He created the Agent Carter series.
Right.
Then he's doing Captain America: Civil War and Infinity War movies. So
I'm not saying it won't be good. I'm just saying.
Well, I'm just saying, like, Captain America and Thor were good.
Yeah,
they were good, and so this is a team that's at least proven. It's not like they're handing it over to somebody new.
Correct.
Like DC likes to do.
Right.
Give the new kid Green Lantern, see how he does. Fuck. And I think here to end the show, we didn't do a lot with spoilers, which I'm happy about. Mm-hmm. But one thing that I would like to talk about is kind of this upcoming slate of superhero movies. We touched on it briefly with the Thor Ragnarok, but that's 2 years away. That's 2017. To end out this year, you've got Ant-Man coming out July 17th, which I'm super stoked about.
I think it'll be good.
I did watch the second trailer for that.
I've only watched the first.
I watched the second trailer because they showed more of the transitions.
Yeah, I don't want to see that.
Well, I wanted to see how it was being done.
Right.
Because I wanted to know how much I was going to hate it. and I didn't, so that's a good thing. And I'm just going to go through real quick the Marvel movies that we've got, because you've got Ant-Man. We talked about Civil War with Captain America, which is 2016, as is the Doctor Strange movie.
Right.
Now, so far, we don't know shit about the Doctor Strange
He's
movie,
been mentioned in the universe.
but not as Doctor Strange. They only
They
mentioned...
say Stephen, I think, Strange.
Yes,
Yeah.
and that was in Guardians.
No, that was in Cap 2.
Or was that Cap 2?
Yeah.
Okay. And I think they also mentioned him in Guardians, didn't they?
I don't think so.
No, it was just Cap 2?
Just the
Okay,
one.
I'll take your word for it on that one. So you've got those. That's the rest of this year and next year. And then, of course, you've got Guardians of the Galaxy 2, which I'm actually more excited about than anything else that's upcoming aside from this Avengers movie.
Yeah.
Because I don't know. For me, I enjoy the big ensemble cast movies more than I do the single movies. I do.
Yeah.
Personally, I just enjoy those more. Don't get me wrong. I love the first Iron Man. I love the first Iron Man.
Captain America 2.
Captain America 2, but I was disappointed with Captain America 1. I was disappointed with the first Thor. I was disappointed with Iron Man 2. I've actually been disappointed. And they're still good movies, but they're disappointing to me because Avengers is so good and because Guardians was balls to the wall amazing. And then this one, while I would actually put this one above Avengers, I think. I like this one more than I do Avengers 1.
Okay.
But rewatchability factor, Guardians sits up at the top of my list for the Marvel movies.
Right.
Aside from Blade. Blade is still one of my favorite Marvel movies.
You're old.
I'm old.
Yeah.
It's true, because I'm old and Blade was the first.
Yeah.
Blade was the first, and you forget about the Punisher if it's not Thomas Jane.
That I agree with that.
And you can forget about all the Ghost Rider movies.
Sadly, Ghost Rider could have been.
Now, with DC, one of those things, TC, that I think we do need to touch. The next DC movie, of course, is Batman versus Superman: Dawn of Justice.
Right.
This is the make or break movie for Warner Brothers and DC Comics.
I think it's not in general, but I think
they'll still make the other movies. They will make them. It is what it is. They've already released it. There's the hype out there. The machine's going. But if this movie,
one will determine if it'll be good or not.
If this movie does poorly, their slate will completely change. Their slate will completely change if this movie does poorly. And when I say poorly, I mean doesn't meet expectations. It'll still do well. Period. It'll
make its money.
All of the Superman movies made their money. They all did.
Yeah.
Man of Steel did. Even Superman Returns made its money. People forget that. Green Lantern made its money.
Sadly.
It did. Green Lantern almost greenlit a sequel.
Almost.
No pun intended, sorry. But there was almost a sequel for that, and that movie was shit. Comparatively to the other comic book stuff that we've seen. Now, of course, the Dark Knight trilogy is the exception to the DC rule.
But it's not part of the same universe. We can't count that.
That's what I mean. It's the exception. You have to take that as what it is, and that's more The Hobbit than it is DC.
Yeah.
You know what I mean? Or it's actually more Lord of the Rings than it is Lord of the Rings and The Hobbit together. Because, yes, those are the same universe, but The Hobbit paled in comparison to the Rings trilogy. So they've got Batman versus Superman, and then they've got Suicide Squad, which honestly I think is going to be a better movie.
I don't know.
I love the Joker's look.
Well, you're in the minority on that one.
Because the tattoos aren't going to be there when he's on set. That was a promotional image for the Joker's 75th anniversary. No, dude, they've shown set pictures where he has
I don't trust anything until I see it in theaters, because too many trailers have lied to me.
Okay,
too many still images have been full of crap.
That's fair. But anyways, guys, so DC's at the point where they need to shit or get off the pot.
Yeah.
They need to figure it out, and they need to figure it out now. And they've been there for 4 years.
Marvel's going to have hit out its second major installment, heading into phase 3.
Right.
At the point in which DC's going to be starting.
Right. And that's, granted, maybe DC fills a gap for those people that don't want to go back and watch 12 Marvel movies.
Maybe, and they're going a much darker route, a different, less campy, more legitimate.
What looks like in the next Batman Superman is very much Frank Miller.
Yeah.
And then looking at the stuff from Suicide Squad, it's also very much Frank Miller.
Yeah. So they've got a vision, which could work.
But what scares me about that vision using Frank Miller, The Spirit was such a shitty movie with Gabriel...
Who cares?
Not Byrne. Doesn't matter. That movie was awful.
Yeah.
And that was Frank Miller.
They don't have a good track record yet.
They don't. 300 was good. The sequel was bad.
Yeah.
Once again, Frank Miller. Sin City was good. The sequel was bad. Frank Miller.
Somebody at Warner Brothers is a big Frank Miller fan.
Well, Frank Miller actually has very thematic stuff, and it's fantastic on paper, and it should translate really well to the screen. It just doesn't.
Something happens.
Something happens in the transition, and I don't know what it is. Whereas Marvel has figured out how to make the transition seamless and work and make it more palatable to general audiences. DC not only alienates the general audience, they alienate their fanboys.
Yeah.
You can't do that.
They could pull it out, but
maybe. I don't know. I mean, I'm excited for the Batman Superman movie. Cautiously excited. But it is what it is.
We'll see.
Anyways, I think that's going to do it for us here, guys. Go see the Avengers. It's going to be a hit. It's going to be amazing.
You're going to like it.
Everybody's going to like it. Like, there isn't anything in the movie that you're not going to like. And if there is something that you don't like, it's because you're a nitpicky fuck. So,
and if you're really that upset about it, blame Brian.
Well, that's fair. That's fair. Blame me. I don't care. Thomas blames me for everything.
Most things that go wrong in my life, I blame on you. Like my back.
Yeah, of course. My back is your fault. You need to stop laying on it. Anyway, so with that, guys, I guess we'll see you the next time we do this.
Yeah.
I don't know who I'll be with, and I don't know if it'll be Thomas or anybody else. I'm hoping it's somebody that I can actually I don't know the word I want. I lost the
word.
Tolerate. That's not the word I was looking for, but that'll work. It'll be somebody that I can tolerate. So anyway, that's going to do it for us here on Critique Revolve on Rain Man Digital.
You got it right that time.
I did. Thank you guys for listening. We do appreciate it, and we love you all.
See you.
The Corova Milk Bar sold Milk Plus Velocet, or Centamesque, or Drencrum, which is what we were drinking. This would sharpen you up and make you ready for a bit of the old ultra-violence.